Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Driscoll, General George, it's great to see you again, and thank you for your testimony. I appreciate the testimony you provided that emphasized transformation in contact and a commitment to continuous adaptation, and I couldn't agree more. But when it comes to FPV drones, we're still behind. As this past weekend demonstrated, Ukraine has really redefined drone warfare using 3D printing, commercial parts, and on-the-fly adaptation. And frankly, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this is a revolution in warfare, much like the machine gun was in World War I or the carrier in World War II. They treat drones the way artillery treats shells, disposable, cheap, fielded in the tens of thousands. That's why FPV drones currently account for 70% of combat casualties between Ukraine and Russia. Yet we continue to treat drones as durable assets, centrally managed, selectively deployed, and maintenance intensive. I learned on Monday, I was out at Quantico, which is one of the 3 installations in my district. I also have Walker and Dahlgren. And this is a rare thing, given Marines credit. They have a drone team, and the Army just stood up a drone team for a competition. And I find this encouraging, but we have to do, obviously, a ton more. Quantico is also actually using one-way attack drones, and I'm not sure if the Army has found yet a test range for that, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail, but I had an opportunity to detonate a one-way attack drone on a range in Quantico. We have to have that capability across the force. A few questions here. I saw a couple of different drones out there, some that were actually built by the Marines and some that were purchased. One was an ISR drone that we purchased for $55,000. The Ukrainians are manufacturing these, and the Marines are actually building them for $500. Shouldn't we be treating these drones more like artillery and ammunition, more disposable, and building them rather than spending tons of money on them?
You couldn't, Congressman, have any two bigger supporters of that argument. I think drones is highlighting very specifically at a very important moment in human history and warfare, the system that we have that has built up over the last 30 and 40 years of defense spending is not sufficient for this moment. And we as a country have got to get to a place where we can create attritable drones that are at least directionally in the same price point as our enemies, because otherwise, even as wealthy as we are, a $4 million shot against an $800 drone, we can only do that so many times. And kind of more importantly, even if we could afford it, creating something so exquisite to take down such a cheap piece of equipment, the time costs are important too.
Yeah, I was just going to say we need to get you back out into an Army unit, Congressman. I mean,
I'm ready to go.
We were just down at JRTC. I mean, that unit, the 1st Brigade 101st, had actually built more than 100 of their own drones. I mean, we're doing that really throughout the Army at Innovation Labs. This gets back to the earlier comment we were having, though. What we need is we need to be able to scale production, and that's parts. That gets back to the organic industrial base and what we're doing here, and it gets back to agile funding and how we're able to, everybody wants to buy these big, exquisite,
Well, you have supporters here, General, on this committee, certainly. And so one of the things I watched, Secretary, you talked about, the Ukrainians are years ahead of us in this regard. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I think what we ought to do is, if we're going to buy U.S. manufactured drones, certainly at any cost, they ought to be tested in cooperation with our friends in Ukraine in a real combat environment. The other thing is, and I don't have a great deal of time, so I'm going to try to move through this pretty quickly, is we actually need to develop the whole .mil-PF around drone warfare: doctrine, organization, training, material, leadership, education, personnel, facilities, the whole kit and caboodle, and we have to do this fast. I mean, if we, I've just got skin in the game, not just because I'm a retired soldier or a soldier in retired status, but I've got a nephew in the 82nd on the tip of the spear, and we have a number of folks in that position. So what authorities do you need to get this done when we're looking at base defense and so on? 7 seconds.
Agile funding, we need to figure out how we're going to train locally to do some of this. And then this gets back to the organic industrial base. I think we need to start making some of these things and inviting industry in to do this so that we're not buying,
Gentlemen's time
Chinese parts.
expired. Chair, now